This evening, first, a crackdown on unlicensed firepower. Police seized multiple illegal firearms from across Georgetown and the East Coast in a series of intelligence-led operations, with private security guards now under scrutiny for carrying weapons without permit. Plus, a report card for every school. The government moves to introduce a national school report card measuring performance, teacher attendance, and curriculum delivery, as education officials push for higher standards and stronger accountability. Also, a new drug threat emerges. CANU issues a national early warning after seizing THC-infused cannabis vape cartridges disguised as consumer products, raising alarm over health risk and youth exposure. Meanwhile, a milestone for inclusive education. The Yas School of Inspiration opens on the West Coast, offering specialized support for children with disabilities, backed by a $100 million partnership between Guyana and the United Arab Emirates. And abroad, Cuba receives remaining security personnel from Venezuela, underscoring long-standing ties between the two nations amid shifting regional tensions. These stories and more coming up. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for January 16, 2026. I'm Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, police are investigating a series of illegal firearm seizures following multiple intelligence-led operations carried out across Georgetown and the east coast of Demerara between January 13th and 15th of 2026. In the largest operation, conducted on Tuesday afternoon in Sophia and Lusignan, police searched several locations, including supermarkets and a shopping mall. 8 firearms comprising airsoft rifles, airsoft pistols, and a 12-gauge shotgun, along with 2 rounds of ammunition, were discovered. Several private security guards were questioned after being found in possession of firearms without a valid license or permits. In one case, a 12-gauge shotgun with its serial number filed off and loaded with live cartridges were discovered. Additional airsoft weapons were later found in a vehicle owned by the security company's supervisor, who was unable to produce the required documentation. All suspects were taken into custody and are assisting with the investigation. In a separate operation on Thursday evening at Pleasance, East Coast Demerara, police on motorcycle patrol intercepted a security guard who was found with a 9mm pistol and a magazine containing 3 live rounds. The 37-year-old suspect told the police he was not licensed to carry a firearm and was taken into custody. Another intelligence-led operation later that evening at a supermarket in Good Hope resulted in the arrest of a 24-year-old security guard found with a 12-gauge shotgun and 5 live cartridges, also without a license. All firearms and ammunition seized have been lodged as evidence, and police say investigations into the incidents are ongoing. The recent series of intelligence-led operations underscore the need for stricter oversight, license compliance, and accountability within the private security sector. In other news, in a move aimed at raising standards and strengthening accountability, the government will soon introduce a national school report card to assess the performance of every school across Guyana. The initiative, announced by Minister of Education Sonia Parag, will evaluate overall school performance, teacher attendance, and the effectiveness of the national curriculum in delivering to students. The assessment is expected to be completed after this year's National Grade 6 assessment, providing a comprehensive snapshot of the education system. Speaking during an excerpt of the Starting Point podcast on Thursday, Minister Parag said the report card system will help identify strengths and weaknesses within schools and encourage continuous improvement.
We're building schools. We're ensuring that resources are placed in schools for students to be able to benefit from that. So we also have to look at moving these schools from one stage to the next. You have A-list schools, you have B-list schools, you have national schools. And so we have to look at how these schools perform. So a report card for the schools is different than a report card for the individual student. So this report card is going to be based on the performance of that school overall. So you're a primary school, you are or you're a secondary school and you're an A-list school, what does that mean? It means that your students would have had a particular, coming out of a particular score from NGSA and be placed in this school. Why this school? Because this school has performed a certain way. This school has delivered a certain way. The teachers have been attending school. The teachers are teaching their curriculum, ensuring that the curriculum is imparted on the students, and so on and so on, right? So different factors we have to take into account.
The newly appointed Minister of Education emphasized that teachers will play a key role in the process, noting that they are essential stakeholders in improving educational outcomes.
We need to have schools perform. Right. If we are going to invest, and if we are going to have, at the end of the day, children who are going to become adults, who are skilled, who are well skilled, and who are going to play a part in our national development, who themselves are going to develop because of the skills that we want them to achieve in a particular subject area, whatever they want to achieve with whichever career path they want to take. We have to be able to create that environment for that to happen, for that improvement, that development to happen. The teachers have to assist us because they're a stakeholder in this. Right. So the schools have to be managed in such a way that you're getting the best out of that investment.
The minister added that schools already have access to the necessary resources, including textbooks and other teaching tools. According to Minister Parag, the new strategy is intended to ensure greater accountability and drive higher performance across the education sector, improving the quality of education nationwide. On a different note, the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit has issued a national early warning following the discovery and seizure of multiple THC-infused cannabis vape cartridges during an operation in the Campbellville housing scheme, Georgetown, on January 15th. CANU said the operation was conducted based on intelligence received and revealed an emerging trend in the importation of high-potency cannabis concentrates disguised as consumer vape products. The agency noted that the cartridges were professionally packaged with colorful branding designed to appeal to youths, raising concerns about rapid circulation if not intercepted. According to CANU, the chemical composition and possible contaminants of the seized products remain unknown, and samples have been set aside for laboratory analysis. The agency stressed that cannabis and all its byproducts, including THC vape oils and live resin, are illegal in Guyana under the Narcotics, Drugs, and Psychotropic Substances Act. CANU warned that labels claiming medical use have no legal standing in Guyana and do not exempt the product from prohibition. Officials also cautioned about the serious health risks associated with cannabis vapes, particularly due to high THC concentrations and unknown additives commonly found in unregulated or counterfeit products. CANU's early warning system has classified the THC cartridges as a high-risk emerging threat, especially to minors. The system monitors trends, packaging, chemical profiles, and trafficking patterns, and provides intelligence to support national enforcement efforts. Members of the public are encouraged to report information confidentially to CANU as investigations continue. Stick around when we return. Karasabi residents to help build $993 million concrete airfield, and Yas School of Inspiration opens to support children with disabilities.
Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Our smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money,
you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
GCOM will be conducting a claims and objections exercise commencing January 5, 2026 to produce an official list of electors, OLE, if you will be 18 years or older by December 31, 2025, and you're a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, or naturalization, or a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more, you are eligible for inclusion in the OLE. GCOM will be posting the preliminary list of electors, PLE, in all of the registration divisions across Guyana for you to check if you are listed, and if so, whether your particulars are accurate. You can make a claim for registration, change or correction to your particulars, or you can object to the inclusion of anyone who you believe should not be on the list. If you are desirous of making a claim or objection, you must visit the GCOM registration office responsible for your area of residence to do so. Visit the GCOM registration office responsible for your area of residence to conduct any of the above transactions. All GCOM registration offices will open Mondays to Fridays from 8 to 18 hours, Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 14 hours. For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-0278-9 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Welcome back. The Yas School of Inspiration, a modern special education facility located in Crane on the west coast of Demerara, was officially commissioned on Thursday evening, marking a significant step in advancing inclusive education for children with disabilities in Guyana. President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, First Lady Arya Ali, and United Arab Emirates Minister of State for International Cooperation, Reem bin Ibrahim Al-Hashimi, led the commissioning ceremony along with several cabinet ministers. The school has opened its doors to 50 children and is designed to provide a supportive, specialized learning environment. In his address, President Ali said the facility reflects the government's commitment to equity and inclusion, noting that national progress is measured by how society treats its most vulnerable citizens.
How do we treat our citizens with different challenges? Our philosophy is to treat in an equitable manner every child and every citizen. And that is why these investments are so important. The Yas School of Inspiration is an embodiment of that covenant. It will foster understanding in a world that often fears difference. It will nurture potential where unique minds are not seen as limited, but as wired for wonders we are only beginning to comprehend.
The president announced that the school will be supported by a wider inclusive ecosystem, including 3 purpose-built buses to ensure safe transportation for students. Enrollment has already begun, with activities expected to begin within the coming weeks once teacher-to-student matching is complete.
This school is designed for about 50 students. The enrollment would have started, but we are now matching the teachers with the children. So in 2 weeks, you will see activities here. But importantly, we're going to establish a board at this school. And that board will comprise of the parents of those children, so that you will have direct supervision, direct management of the work that would be done here, so that you will be comfortable with what is done here for your children.
The $100 million project was executed through a partnership between the Government of Guyana, the Office of the First Lady, and the Government of the United Arab Emirates. Minister Al-Hashimi described the school as a gateway to improving the quality of life for children with disabilities and their families.
In my country, people with disabilities are also referred to as people of determination. That determination isn't only, however, theirs to carry, but it is also ours to follow. We too must be determined to make sure that we leave no stone unturned in ensuring that their lives are honored that they're able to be active, productive members of society, and above all, that they do so with strength and dignity, supported and supplied by the larger community. My leadership, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, President of the United Arab Emirates, just like yours, President Irfan, believe in an integrated, holistic community. His father, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan, rahmatullah alayh, may his soul rest in peace, always believed that education was in fact the promise of all and the promise of everything. And so through this school, as Minister Parag mentioned, we don't just open for the education of children, we also open doors to a different life for them and also for their parents.
Meanwhile, Education Minister Soni Parag noted that the institution is the 49th special education needs school in Guyana. In other news, in a major push to enhance hinterland infrastructure, 50 residents of Karasabi Region 9 have been employed to upgrade the village's earthen airstrip into a modern concrete airfield. The $993 million project will transform the strip into 8-inch thick, rigid concrete and will include around 50 navigational lights to enable night landing in emergencies. Minister of Public Works Bishop One Edgehill, accompanied by a technical team from the Special Project Unit, met with villagers on Wednesday to outline the project.
This model of development, where the government of Guyana through the Special Projects Unit has been working with communities to do two things: ensure there is employment and add to economic activity, but at the same time delivering infrastructural development.
The construction is scheduled to begin on January 19th and is expected to take approximately 75 days using a community participation model that employs both skilled and unskilled local workers. Edgehill highlighted that the initiative not only provides employment and stimulates economic activity, but also delivers critical infrastructure for the village. International Import and Supplies, responsible for providing construction material, will also donate a terminal building similar to that of the newly commissioned Shelton Airfield.
During the 70 days or 75 days that this airstrip would be closed for construction, we'll have to ensure that the road that links you with Letem is improved so that if there is any medical emergency or any situation, you can get to the closest airstrip in the shortest possible time in a safe manner.
The project follows the government's recent commissioning of modern airstrips at Paramokotoy Region 8 and Shelton Region 9, aimed at boosting hinterland connectivity, supporting local economies, and creating opportunities in agriculture, tourism, and business. Don't go away after the break. U.S.-Venezuela relations. Opposition leader visits White House, and Minnesota anti-ICE protests. Trump threatens to invoke Insurrection Act. And Minnesota anti-ICE protests. Trump threatens to invoke Insurrection Act. Don't go away after the break. U.S.-Venezuela relations. Opposition leader visits White House, and Minnesota anti-ICE protests. Trump threatens to invoke Insurrection Act.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Our smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
GCOM will be conducting a claims and objections exercise commencing January 5, 2026 to produce an official list of electors OLE if you will be 18 years or older by December 31, 2025 and you are a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent or naturalization or a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more, you are eligible for inclusion in the OLE. GCOM will be posting the preliminary list of electors PLE in all of the registration divisions across Guyana for you to check if you are listed and if so, whether your particulars are accurate. If you have changed your address since you were registered, you need to visit the GCOM registration office responsible for your new area of residence to apply for a transfer. Sunday, January 18, 2026 is the last day you can apply for a transfer during this exercise. For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-0278-9 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and the rest of the world.
Good evening, I'm Dominic Gittins. Tonight, U.S. forces seize a 6 oil tanker linked to Venezuela as pressure on Caracas grows. Cuba receives Venezuelan security personnel. Trump clashes with Venezuela's opposition leader. And the U.S. president threatens federal troop deployment amid protests in Minnesota. We begin in the Caribbean. U.S. forces have seized the 6 oil tanker linked to Venezuela, boarding the vessel Veronica in the Caribbean as part of Washington's expanded enforcement against sanctioned shipping. The operation, involving the Coast Guard and U.S. Marines, comes amid U.S. efforts to assert control over Venezuelan oil resources and Caracas' plans to reform energy laws. Cuba has received the remaining security personnel from Venezuela. Since a failed Washington-backed coup in 2002, Cuba has provided Venezuela with doctors, teachers, and counterintelligence and security personnel, often in exchange for petroleum. Al Jazeera's Ed Augustine reports.
Remembering the dead, Cuba today honored the remains of 32 military personnel killed this month when U.S. Special Forces captured and detained Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro.
The enemy speaks euphorically of high-precision operations, of elite troops, of supremacy. We instead speak of faces of families who lost their father, their son, their husband, their brother. We speak of children who will grow up without a hug from their fathers.
Family members and military figures said their final goodbyes. For the last 66 years, Cuba has suffered economic warfare and covert operations from the US, but never a direct military intervention. The Bay of Pigs marked the only time in history when a Latin American army and militia successfully repelled the US-backed invasion. Cuba's armed forces were at one point the biggest in Latin America after Brazil. Prior to Maduro's capture, the Cuban armed forces had been defeated only once, by the United States in Grenada in 1983. For the Cuban military, this is a somber moment. An air of vulnerability is palpable on Havana's streets amid fears of further escalation.
Just imagine how bad the power outages will be now, because we depend on petrol from Venezuela. Where are we going to get it from now?
Amid direct threats from the US, the military is on alert. A National Defense Day was called. Analysts say equipment is largely obsolete. The Trump administration says it's not planning military action for Cuba.
Are you considering U.S. action in Cuba?
We're not. I think it's just going to fall. I don't think we need any action.
Since December, the US has seized multiple oil tankers delivering Venezuelan oil. Now the president says all oil deliveries from Venezuela to Cuba will be cut off at source. Trump has spoken of a possible deal between the two countries before it's too late. He said both governments were talking. Havana denied any special talks were underway. Cuba's armed forces are facing a heightened challenge in maintaining their deterrent amid advanced US capabilities and direct threats. Ed Augustine, Al Jazeera, Havana.
Venezuelan opposition leader Marina Corina Machado says she presented her Nobel Peace Medal to Donald Trump during a meeting at the White House. It comes after Trump sidelighted her as U.S. forces captured and detained Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, saying she didn't have the support or respect within the country to take power. Al Jazeera's John Holman reports.
It was a big meeting for Maria Corina Machado, the de facto leader of the Venezuelan opposition, heading to the White House on Thursday for the first time since Nicolás Maduro, her adversary and Venezuela's president, was captured and detained by the US. She said it went well.
I was very impressed by how clear he is, how he understands the situation in Venezuela, how he cares about the suffering of the Venezuelan people, and I assured him that Venezuelan society is united. Today, more than 90% of Venezuelans want the same thing. We want to live in freedom, with dignity, with justice. We want our children back home, and for that to happen, there must be democracy.
But despite offering President Trump the Nobel Peace Medal she won last year, an award he wanted badly for himself, there was no photo op and no indication that a transition is a priority for him. Instead, he continues to back the vice president of the man he removed, Delcy Rodriguez.
She's a terrific person. I mean, she's somebody that we've worked with very well.
That didn't stop her railing against the US for her boss's capture on Thursday, albeit carefully.
We know they are a lethal nuclear power. We have seen their record in the history of humanity. We know, and we are not afraid to face them diplomatically.
A battle through letters, she promised the Venezuelan National Assembly. In reality, she's having to work with and even under Trump, in particular, handing over much of the control of Venezuela's oil industry to the US. That control underlined when US forces seized a sixth Venezuelan-linked oil tanker at dawn on Thursday. The US naval blockade of the country continues. So does its backing of the same government that it and many others have repeatedly accused of election stealing and human rights abuses, with the opposition, for the moment, out in the cold. John Holman, Al Jazeera.
U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to use an emergency law to send federal troops into the state of Minnesota following days of angry protests against ICE. It comes more than a week after a U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement agent fatally shot a woman in Minneapolis. Al Jazeera's John Hinterland reports.
President Trump is threatening to invoke a rarely used emergency law for the first time, sending military troops into Minnesota, where state leaders are already complaining about a violent federal invasion. In a post on Thursday, Trump wrote that if Minnesota's political leaders don't stop protesters from, in his words, attacking Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, quote, I will institute the Insurrection Act. The 1807 law lets the president deploy military troops for domestic law enforcement, something under normal circumstances they are barred from doing.
The Insurrection Act is a tool at the president's disposal. As you know, it has been used sparingly, but it has been used by previous presidents in American history.
The federal crackdown on immigration in Minnesota has split the Justice Department, with U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson and 5 other federal prosecutors in Minnesota and several at the department's Civil Rights Division in Washington resigning following the fatal ICE shooting of Renee Good. Oh my God! Their objection? That DOJ leaders insist on investigating Good's widow, Becca Good, for ties to activist groups, which is not illegal, and not the officer who killed her. Minnesota leaders say this video clearly shows she was turning her wheels away from the agent and trying to escape when an ICE officer shot her in the face, killing her.
We've all watched the video. We've all seen what happened. And yet, instead of conducting an impartial investigation so we can hold accountable the officer responsible for Renee's death, the Trump administration is devoting the full power of the federal government to finding an excuse to attack the victim and her family.
Late Wednesday, an ICE agent shot a Venezuelan migrant in the leg, who federal officials say was attacking the officer. The resigning prosecutors also reportedly objected to Minnesota state officials being left out of the investigation. Minnesota is one of several states where Trump has sent federal immigration agents in over the objection of local Democratic leaders who call the campaign of raids partisan and politically motivated. Minnesota and Illinois are suing to stop the surge of immigration agents in their states. Just the latest flashpoint in an increasingly contentious confrontation between the Trump administration and blue states. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Thanks, Dominique. This brings us to the end of the regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-minute forecast. And that's it, TV2 Headline News for this Friday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We will be off for the weekend, but you can tune in on Monday at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other and do have a wonderful weekend.